I can imagine there's a very small market for people putting in a dc-dc charger in the back of a Santa Fe, but this information may help someone in the world looking for a spot to get the rear cable in. So what I've done is, this is in the hatch, pulled the rear trim off, pulled that floor pocket off, pulled one half of the third row seat out, and then you fight with all the clips along here and get that whole side panel out. And the reason I did that is to get the massive cable in this pocket, which is that pocket there over the wheel arch, and all the cable in the Anderson's plugged in there. I'll show you that later. Just the main issue why I'm doing this is because I don't want to run this massive 6 BNS, which is 13.5 millimeter squared conductor times 2, and that dimension across there, that widest part is 16 mil. There just isn't the space in all the wiring conduits in this vehicle and most modern vehicles to fit it in. So what I'm doing is running from the front, following the rear aircon lines all the way underneath. That'll be in hard PVC conduit, which I'll show you when it's finished. So I took the wheel off, took the inner wheel arch trim off. There isn't any space left, just a spider hanging out. There isn't any space left to go through that penetration with the aircon, and I found a rubber plug over here, and that's where that massive cable can get through. Cut a hole there. That's where it comes through there. It's going to come up over the wheel arch and into that pocket which I showed you before. So here is the finished job, running from the back of the car to the front. What I did was follow that rear aircon line to the front, tucked under and bundled with the factory lines. So when we come up to the engine bay, you can see the white PVC conduit. Unfortunately it is white, but that's the heavy duty stuff used for commercial electrical fit outs. I didn't want to use the split tubing in the big size. I've used split tubing here. That's when the cable comes out positive and negative. Yeah, it's just a bit of an aesthetic. White doesn't look really that great in the engine bay, but that is all a one piece cable and one piece PVC conduit all the way to the rear. So now let's talk about the source of the power. I used the factory earth point there. That's down there on the wheel arch for the negative, and a nice positive point here is this one here. Used a positive post that's going into that fuse box. That all runs under the fuse box, comes out over here. Now that silver aluminium bracket is a bracket I made to come off those two factory posts. That was just mounting that diagnosis module. So I used those factory studs and made a bracket behind, and down the bottom you can see the 40 amp circuit breaker. So what this does is an easy disconnect for the power in the back. You just press it. If you want to disconnect power down the back, and that's active again. Positive coming in, positive charge from the alternator via that fuse box of 4, going through this 40 amp circuit breaker, and here's the output. So that's the circuit breaker in the positive line, going out to the back. Here's that negative line going to the earth point I showed before. I suppose the whole purpose of those videos is a bit of a general video about what I'm talking about to customers when I'm saying you need to get power from your vehicle to the back of the vehicle to do a DC-DC charger. Now this looks simple when it's installed, but it's many hours. trying to keep the vehicle installation as simple as possible, I just run positive and negative from the vehicle through the circuit breaker. That positive and negative runs all the way down the back to a battery box which has a DC-DC charger sitting on top. Therefore, we don't need to have a big DC-DC charger mounted in the dust and extreme heat in the engine bay, and there was no space in this vehicle anyway. What that also means, if you mount in the back, it opens you up to cheaper DC-DC options like that super cheap Ridge Rider 20 amp DC-DC charger. I think they're about $180 retail. They're not IP rated for dust and moisture and heat in the engine bay, so it's definitely a much better option to mount them in the back of the vehicle, whether that's in a covered ute tub or in the back of this hatch. So just a bit of a general overview of this situation up here. I'll do a short video walkthrough of the DC-DC charger, but this setup powered our fridge and recharged the battery every day when we were down south for over 10 days. When you're driving every first or second day, having a DC-DC charger, it gives you much faster recharge, probably 4 times as fast as solar could, even if the sun is really cranking. Here's the situation in the back with the finished cable out of sight. So that's the big cable and the Anderson. Pretty simple when you see it. Now through that we could power a fridge or charge our battery. That just packs neatly away in that door pocket until you need it.